just to begin by just reflecting on 2021 and where we were at the beginning of the year, we knew two things. We knew two big things, which was that one CGIAR is coming in 22 with an integrated management structure. Not a lot of detail on what that would look like or how that would happen, but we knew it was going to happen. The other thing we knew is from conversations with breeding leads, funders, research directors, is that biometrics, this area is likely to be an early adopter of a 1CG style operating model. So basically a global service that goes across centers and crops. So we need to get ready was what I was thinking was in the beginning of 2022. And before we began this network, we didn't have really a central place where we could share our experiences, accomplishments, and processes. We didn't have a place where we could just hear about what other crops, other programs are doing. We didn't have a forum to build consensus on what we considered to be best practices, or to build consensus on what were the major pain points and bottlenecks in analytics. Without that sort of consensus, it limits our ability to influence how and what tools get built and adopted. And now I think as of December 21, we do have a network where we can do all of those things. All of those things that I just listed, I think is actively happening right now in this group. So I went back to this sort of a summary slide. I think it was a part of the kickoff in our original meeting. That was it was last day of March is what I remember. I wanted to kick it off in Q1, so we made it right under the wire. So we set out to build an alliance of quantitative, skilled people in the CGIAR and NARS. So we didn't really get to do much on the NARS part. That's something we should think about how to fix next year. But we definitely built this network of intentional collaboration and coordination. And the reason why we did that was to support the centers, to bridge the disconnect between where a disconnect exists, improve coordination and standardization of analytics, and to mitigate the connection challenges between biometrics and IT teams and breeders. So I feel really, really proud of what we've accomplished together, in that I think this is exactly what we have accomplished, exactly what we set out to accomplish. And I think it's actually pretty rare that you're able to say that. So that's something that I really want to applaud everyone for. What this all boils down to is we have established a community and a way of working together across centers and crops. And that sounds, and in terms of 1CG, like we have a foundation going forward into 1CGIAR. We have this foundation to build on. And I think that really puts the analytics community at a much like advantage over other areas in this transition period. So, okay, looking forward into 22. So I have a few major goals for 22, and the goals are on the left. On the right, I have the sort of the rough means of accomplishing them. So big goal, one of the big things is to strengthen the mandate, the official mandate of BrIN as this forum for harmonization and standardization recommendations. And the way we're going to do that is we are going to work with the 1CG integrated management structure to formally recognize BrIN's function. Of course, like with the mandate, we want to start issuing harmonization and standardization recommendations for some prioritized analyses. And I think there we have a really good foundation. We have all these reference assets, compare and contrast assets that we can use as a base. We have the folks from EIB Module 2 who are all actively participating in BrIN to work with us, and we can build on some of the work that momentum that was built in the genetic gain report that everyone worked on in the past year. We want to, this has come up a few times, we want to strengthen the connection between BrIN and the software development process. So, there's a bunch of things happening in that area. For EBS specifically, we'll work with the EBS product lead to define roles and process for communicating and giving feedback on analytics requirements. For BMS and BreedBase, it's the same thing. Like we need that sort of input and feedback loop, but we need it with, we'll be working with like ILSI or BTI, for example, instead. And regardless of system, and just generally speaking, there's going to be an effort led by Stefan Weber, the EBS program manager, who to build up formal process networks and support functions for process networks in one CGIAR. So here the idea here is we want to have sort of networks for harmonization and standardization of not just analytics processes, but all kinds of operational processes. So there's as Stefan works to formalize what that looks like, BrIN, which we went in early and started building things up this year, will align with what Stefan is doing there. And finally, we want to define together how the breeding analytics group in 1CG will work together with 1CG funding. I think if at all possible, I want to prioritize biometrics in funding from the 1CG initiative, the network for gosh, that horrible acronym, I shouldn't have picked it, the services initiative. So what we're going to do in the early part of 22, Q1, probably into Q2 realistically, is we'll have a series of working groups with it'll be representatives from this group, the biometrics leads and key breeders, and we'll work together to understand the shared landscape of work, obligations, and opportunities, skills and interests people have, and we'll figure out how a more formal way of working together in 1CG over those the first half of 2022. Okay, so I don't want to leave without acknowledging Star. So none of this would have happened without Star's leadership, her drive, her enthusiasm to make this happen. This was it was really just a fortuitous meeting of what I wanted to do and what her availability and what her skills were to get something like huge like this going. We needed someone who could be systematic and organized and look at the big picture. And we also needed a breeder, I think, because this is a specialized area, and this is really something that was able to take root because of Star. So I want to thank you, Star. And if you're able to just click on your thumbs up button or your applause button in lieu of being able to do this in person. So thank you. And
all right, thank you, Yunhua. Now I'm going to share screen.
One sec. And then I want to thank also just everyone, all the working group leads, the members, the BrIN participants, for your trust, your expertise, and your very, very valuable time. The community and the momentum we've built like those are like fuzzy concepts, but they're really hard to realize. And they are absolutely essential to make anything happen in a change process. And we are all going through a change process right now with 1CG transition. We're in a good place to build, and we will not take what we've done this year for granted. We're going to build on it for next year. So thank you. Go on, Star. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Yunghwa. I'm going to start sharing my screen. I know we are over time, so can you see my screen? So bring a glass of whatever you have in front of you. Get ready. All right. All right. So hang on just for a few minutes. I do have a few words to recognize the key contributors and then the key drivers in this space. First, return to Yunghwa's acknowledgement. So when Yunghwa first shared with me her charter to go from step 1 all the way to step 11, running this as a continuous improvement. So let's recognize Yunghwa for her vision and also putting the structure and encourage us to work together. So with our the first 2 sprints, you can see most team already close to best practices. And we are really getting close to hunting down the requirements to the IT. So what I would like to see, just as Yunghwa mentioned, so the first 2 sprints are excellent in terms of driving the best practices and aggregating the requirements through compare and contrast. We created a lot of assets in terms of harmonized requirements and also the way of working. That's the beauty of this team. Not only understand the current state, compare and contrast, we prioritize, we recommend. So we drive towards the business value. So what's the business value? What's the benefits? Decrease the interval, right? In terms of from generation to generation recycling, and increase the selection accuracy, and increase the operation efficiency, and also the safety, and then the productivity. So overall, that's our mission. And as some of you already know, that's where we are here now. And we will have many activities planned, but the overall mission is getting us to support breeding our customers